What's up, everybody? It's your favorite hood healer. It's your favorite hood witch. It's your favorite hood dominatrix. It's your favorite auntie, captain, goddess, king, and the place to be. And I want to welcome you back to my channel. You could be anywhere in the world. As a matter of fact, you are somewhere in the world, and you're also right here, sharing time and space with me while you're in wherever you're in the world, and I appreciate that. So thank you, thank you, thank you. If you're feeling this, if you're feeling me, if you like what I'm doing, if you like what you see, make sure you hit that like button, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and make sure you hit that notifications bell to keep up with all my shenanigans, and we can keep doing this type of thing again and again and again. Anytime you press play, I'm here for you. All right, y'all. So you can see by the title that we're gonna get into something a little serious, a little heavy today. I hope this uplifts, aids, and assists you on your spiritual journey in some way, shape, or form. So let's get into it. Today we are talking about spiritual abuse. And you know what? This is something that I'm going to approach several times on this channel from several different angles. So I'm not going to go over everything today. I'm not going to get into everything today, but I do want to introduce the concept of spiritual abuse, and I do want to talk about it on this channel. So let's get into it. All right, let's get into it. So what do I mean when I say spiritual abuse? In my opinion, spiritual abuse is all of the following and even more. Number one, the use of spirituality to harm you. When spirituality is used to justify your abuse. When spirituality is used to hinder your healing and spiritual advancement. When spirituality, when worship, when God is used to keep you oppressed. When spirituality is used to keep your abusers and your oppressors from being held accountable. When spirituality is used to not only perpetuate, but to hide abuse. When spirituality is used to uplift abuse, oppression, the abuser, and the oppressor. This, my friends, this and many other red flags like these are signs that you are in a spiritually abusive relationship. Let's talk about it. Number one, I am coming from the African traditional religion perspective. I'm coming from the hoodoo perspective. I'm coming from the conjure perspective. I'm coming from the black witch, African American witch perspective, okay? But this concept applies everywhere. It applies to everyone. It applies to Jewish folks. It applies to Muslim folks. It applies to Christians. It applies to pagans. It applies to Wiccans. It applies to voodoo saints. It applies to practitioners of Ifa. It applies to hoodoos and conjurer. It applies to anyone who practices religion, who believes in God, who believes in a higher force, who believes in something bigger than us governing what we got going on. There is no one faith. There is no one religion. There is no one spiritual practice that is exempt. There are good people who are of God, and there are despicable people who masquerade as agents of the divine. We speak often about sexual abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse. We speak a lot about those things in our society, but what I find that we don't speak a lot of is spiritual abuse. I remember 20 years ago when I left my house, over 20 years ago when I left my house, this was something that I spoke to very clearly. I spoke to the fact that not only had I been a survivor of emotional abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, I was also a survivor of spiritual abuse. I came up being raised as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and that is the first time and the first space that I encountered spiritual abuse. This is the first time that I encountered a whole system, a religion that used spiritual and sacred text to justify oppression and control over marginalized gender and people within the religion. Okay. The Jehovah's Witness space is the first time I was thoroughly violated spiritually, where God and scripture was used to justify my ill treatment and my abuse, okay? And I'm actually grateful for this experience. I'm grateful for it. Being raised as Jehovah's Witness gave me a lot of good things. And it also gave me a lot of not so good things. But this experience and healing from this experience actually gave me a very good foundation to choose better spiritual people and paths as I got older, okay? Spiritual abuse. In the Jehovah's Witness capacity, there was a lot of physical abuse that was basically ordained by God in regards to scripture and in regards to the spiritual teaching in the religion. My father mistreated me, and he mistreated many people around him, and he mistreated many people around him, including my biological mother, for years. And he was excused, and he was uplifted, and he was justified due to scripture, due to the philosophies and the beliefs of Jehovah's Witnesses. That faith sanctioned my physical abuse. That faith co-signed my mental abuse. That faith uplifted my sexual abuse. That faith made space for my abuse. Okay. And this is in and under the lens of being a Jehovah's Witness. I was fortunate enough to be connected to Creator, to God, to the God Force, to my spiritual team outside of being a Jehovah's Witness. I was fortunate enough to recognize that Spirit, God Force was real, and it wasn't necessarily how I'd been raised to worship. And I clinged to and cleaved to the idea and the energy of God and my spiritual team and my ancestors. For a few years, I was left on my own. And then I was attracted to Ifa. And as I begin to be attracted to Ifa and African traditional religions, what I noticed is that there were people who were very genuine and connected and godly and beautiful in the Valdun space and in the Ifa space and in the Yoruban space and in the Paulo and Lukeme space. I started seeing all these beautiful representations of humanity and God and goddess and the life force of the universe. But then I also recognized very familiar energies. And what made these energies familiar is, yes, they weren't Jehovah's Witness, but they were oppressive. They were hurt. They were extremely patriarchal, and they were predatory. All of this background and personal information to say, a lot of us leave the Abrahamic religions, the Judeo-Christian Islamic triad, in order to re-indigenize and reclaim our magic and our original indigenous faith. We must recognize, we must absolutely, positively recognize that as we are re-indigenizing, as we are reclaiming these spiritual systems, we are also very much bringing the colonizer to these spaces. We're very much bringing systematic racism, misogynoir, homophobia, transphobia, and a very capitalistic mind state to these spaces. And that, my friends, can be and is oftentimes dangerous. Spiritual abuse is very real because of this. We must recognize that Christianity, Islam, and even Judaism have a lot of violence associated with them. So a lot of our earlier ancestry came into these faiths because of and due to colonialism and violence, which at its core is spiritual abuse. If you kill people into converting, if you threaten people into converting, if you beat people, if you steal people's resources into converting, that is spiritual abuse. And most of us in these Abrahamic and traditional religions have a legacy of spiritual abuse that we come from. All this to say that spiritual abuse is in all of our blood. Be you white, black, be you Christian, be you Muslim, be you indigenous, be you whatever you are and however you identify. Spiritual abuse is more than likely ingrained, indoctrinated, and was beaten, colonized, raped, and pillaged into your blood. This is important to note. This is important to note. This is important to note. Somewhere in your lineage, being persecuted in the name of spirituality is familiar. It's familiar. Being converted violently in the name of spirituality is familiar. Being made to worship in a way that is foreign to you is present and familiar in your blood and your veins. This is an important fact to know because this influences why a lot of us get put in positions where we are abused by prominent spiritual figures. So I say this to say, number one, when you know the history and you own the history, you can repair and heal from the history. Also, when you know the history, when you understand the history, you can not waste time judging yourself. And you can spend more of that time and that energy that you would use judging yourself on healing yourself and correcting the path before you. Spiritual abuse is a thing, and it's rampant in every spiritual community because every spiritual community is influenced by colonialism or white supremacy in some way, shape, form, or capacity, okay? Be aware of spiritual abuse. Be aware of spiritual abuse, and be aware of teachers who are aware of spiritual abuse, who are actively working to not be spiritually abusive, who are consistently decolonizing themselves, challenging themselves, re-indigenizing themselves, but who are also open to apologizing, making amends, making it right when and if, but more than likely when the colonizer shows up, when they are mentoring or when they are teaching or when they are leading, so that they don't unnecessarily damage their flock, their congregation, their temple, their students, their godchildren, the people who are following them, okay? Spiritual abuse is a legacy that we all participate in, that we all have a piece of. And spiritual abuse is something that we have to come at as distinctly and as directly we do sexual assault, mental abuse. We have to come at it as strongly as we come at those other things, okay? Because it's just as important, it's just as damaging, it's just as influencing as emotional abuse, as spiritual abuse, as physical abuse, as mental abuse. There are many of you who come from traditions of spiritual abuse. So when you are switching from traditional religions such as Judaism or Islam or Christianity, it's easy to actually, as you are re-indigenizing and as you are reclaiming your indigenous faith, it's really easy, if not checked, it's really easy to attract the same type of abusive energy that was present in these traditional religions, in these alternative religions. Be aware of that. Be aware of that. Be aware of that. And know that There are good and godly and divinely connected people in every spiritual space. In every spiritual space, there is someone who is most magical and most divine, and who has tapped into the essence of the teachings, who sees it, who knows it, who understands it, who lives it, who is connected to the divine force. And in the same breath, on the opposite side of the spectrum, there's going to be someone in that same faith who capitalizes off of the sickness of it, who capitalizes off of the not so good parts of it, who hones in on the superficial aspects and never does the deep healing of it, who uses that faith, that magic, in a way to hurt, harm, and to perpetuate ugliness and violence and abuse upon their peers or the people that they lead or the people that they are entrusted with spiritual care. Okay? You must be aware. You must be aware. As someone who practices hoodoo and conjure, as someone who practices African traditional religion, I can say that I have seen the good, the bad, the ugly, the devilish, and the most divine. I've seen it all. And I've seen it all in the Christian spaces too, as well. And I've seen it all in the Islamic space as well. What I can tell you is practicing magic, being a hoodoo, being a conjurer, has healed my life and my ancestry and my lineage in unfathomable ways. Some of the most profound healing, all of my most profound healing actually, has come from this space. And I wouldn't change any experience that I've gone through for the world, because it has all been a lesson and a blessing. So this is the first video in regards to spiritual abuse. In this video, my goal was really to make space for those and to affirm those who have been spiritually abused and have never put a name to it. It is to give space for people to admit that they have been spiritually abused, and for them to know that there is life on the other side of that. There is a thriving spiritual relationship to be had on the other side of that. It is to offer solidarity. I know what that is. To have your spirituality in the traditional Christian Jehovah Witness space abused and disrespected. And I also know what it is to re-indigenize, to begin your journey on decolonization, and then to encounter a teacher who is magic and who knows a lot in the esoteric capacity, but as a human being, they haven't done enough of their work they haven't confronted enough of their shadow. They haven't attacked their mental issues enough to not harm me. Even with all of that being said, I can tell you this. I don't regret my journey. And I don't doubt my ancestors. And I don't doubt this magical, mystical, very real spiritual path I've been guided towards and on. I don't doubt it. It has healed me. It has corrected me in so many ways that have been awe-inspiring and very real. I will say that along the way, I have encountered some spiritual predators, and that's not fun. And I've definitely sacrificed time, energy, money. I've sacrificed a good amount to some spiritual predators because I just didn't know what I know now. When I leaned into those lessons, everything that I lost was paid back tenfold in regards to experience and magic and healing. And so I can honestly stand before you today and say I don't regret any of those spaces. But I do want to harvest that knowledge and that energy to give to you, and hopefully help someone not have to be as hurt as I was, and not have to be as taken advantage of as I was, and not have to be as fucked up as I was. Okay, so again, I think this video was long enough. I hope you got something from it. I'm going to revisit this subject a couple more times and from a couple of different angles. I am going to talk about tips and tricks when it comes to healing from spiritual abuse. I am going to do more videos about recognizing spiritual abusers, how to report or how to fight back against spiritual abusers. I'm gonna cover a few angles of this subject, okay? So, but this is the first of the videos. We got some time, and I don't want to overwhelm you. All right, that's it for today. You know, thank you for participating in this. This is officially Friday, December 18th. It is Vlogmas Day 18. So congratulations from me once again for making it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, if you like what I'm doing, if you like what you see, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe bell button, and hit that notifications bell so you can keep up with my shenanigans again and again and again. Make sure you follow me. If you're on Facebook, I have an artist page, so make sure you go and follow and like the LadySpeech page. Right now, I'm on Instagram as LadySpeech Sankova. I was banned at 24,000 people on my original Instagram account, which is a LadySpeech, but we start over, we renew, we do all of that, all right? And the website will be up soon, LadySpeech.com. So, just in case no one has told you today, you are important. You matter. You're amazing. You're amazing. Thank you for surviving everything you have survived. Thank you for supporting me. And thank you for making it to the end of this video. I'll see you lovelies soon. Bye-bye, honey sugar dumplings. I'll see you soon. Peace.